Hi, and thank you for joining me for today's process video. And today is day 14 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life Series 18. And today's sketch in the top left-hand corner there has been provided by Allison McIntyre, who's Ali Space to Craft on Instagram. I'll make sure I pop her details in the description box below. I think she's got a YouTube channel as well. I'm pretty sure I follow her. So do go and check her out. So today I'm documenting two photos from 2019 when Ross and I had an unexpected day together. I think the kids might have been at Cub Camp, so we went into Chester for the day on the train and ended up at the Botanist before going home later in the evening. So I'm using Vicki Boutin's Discover and Create, and I'm sticking pretty closely to the sketch here. So I've used a pattern paper from the paper pad as my base, which is like a peachy coloured text print with some splodges on it. And then I'm just using one of the double-sided pattern papers for the pieces at the top of the page. So both sides I'm using this green grid and then the lovely neutral diamond pattern for the other piece. So I'm just going to distress the edges of those pieces before sticking them down at the top of the page. I like using my edge distress because I like the texture it creates. I also like the fact that it hides my terrible cutting because there were quite a few jagged pieces on this when I cut that swoop on that piece of paper. So just curling up the edges there, and then I'm going to add the green piece. Now you'll see in a minute I start to add ATG to the back, but my tape runs out, so I decide to finish off using glue, and actually wet glue is a much better option because it gives you more maneuverability with the piece of paper. It sort of slips about before it sticks. So you'll see here, this is where I'm just finishing off with the wet glue and then sticking that down under there. Just checking that I'm happy with the positioning before pushing it down, and once again curling up those edges to get that lovely texture at the top there. So these photos have both been printed 3x4, and I'm just going to map them onto some pattern paper. I'm not bothering with a white background because I don't want to make them too big. But first of all, I want to create that strip that Ali's got going across the bottom. So I'm using that same green paper just for continuity and to match the green herbs that were on the side of my cocktail there in the picture. So just distressing those edges, and then I'll get that stuck down. The Botanist is a cocktail bar in the UK if you're not from the UK, and it's always a really interesting place to visit because they have loads of things hung up and adorning the whole of the area. So you can see that's Ross at the bar in the left-hand photo, and above him the chandelier has been created from all sorts of different bits and pieces. It's just a really eclectic mix, and it's a lovely place to go. Their cocktails are divine as well, so that helps. So this is how my photos are going to sit, and I cut this ampersand from one of the Hey Little Magpie dies. We've got an ampersand set, and I love those, and I know Vicki Boutin uses them loads in her collections. There was one in this on the sticker sheet, but I think I'd already used it, so I've just decided to create my own. And that little circular piece is from the printables that I created to go with Discover and Create. So they're available as a download or to buy printed from Hey Little Magpie, and they just work really nicely with this collection. So just trimming down this paper, I chose this lovely tan neutral paper for one of the photos, and then the other one's just going to sit on this lovely grey grid. So just using neutral so that it doesn't detract from the photo, but just gives a little bit of separation from the background as well. So just chopping those out, and then I shall distress the edges before carrying on. So while I'm doing that, don't forget to check the description box down below to see everybody else who's playing along. There is a playlist, but some of us have had issues adding to that playlist. So do search for the hashtag as well, which is 30DSCBL18. So that's the hashtag to check out. It's in my description of this video, so you can just click on that and see the other videos that have been added using that. So I'm sort of slowly building things up. I thought about using this teapot because of all the eclectic things in the Botanist. I thought that might be nice, but I can't get it to work in the end. Also this tag, I've left all of this in just to show you how I do sometimes faff about before I get to the final layout. Really wanted to use that ampersand but couldn't get it to work on the left with that teapot, so I've moved it to the right there. And I've got these lovely circle wheels. The Viewmaster black one is die cut from one of the Hey Little Magpie die cut sets, and then the other one is in the papery pack from Discover and Create. And then I've got those 2 tabs once again cut from the dies that we sell at Hey Little Magpie. So I'm going to definitely use those die cut pieces. You'll see I also brought in a little half label there from the papery pack, and I'm just tucking that in there, but you can see this is where I get rid of that teapot and bring the ampersand back in at the bottom there. Get rid of that tag. I do want something there on the left hand side for my journaling, but that tag just didn't feel quite right. So coming in with the sticker sheet, I wanted to add those clusters in the top right hand corner. I'm just using this sticker because I think it's going to work really nicely. And then this washi sticker here from the, I think from the papery pack again, it says things to remember, and that's going to be my title at the top there. I've just chopped it off for now, but I will peel it off the backing and stick it down. So I also noticed this little file tab, and I think that's perfect for adding my journaling. And then this piece that I'm adding along the bottom is cut from one of our brand new border dies at Hey Little Magpie. It's the mini scallops. So I've just cut the end off, and I'm going to layer that underneath that ruler, and I just think that looks really nice there. So that's bringing the black into the third area. I've got it at the top with that Viewmaster reel, on the right with the ampersand, and then at the bottom with that mini scallop. So I'm just going to start sticking everything down now. I pull something out, put it down, and then can't remember exactly how everything went. It's the story of my life. I really need to get a separate camera because I film using my phone, but maybe if I had a separate camera and I could snap a shot, then I'd be able to remember where I put things. And you can see me fussing here, wondering exactly how this photo cluster went. I'll get there in the end. So I'm just going to glue these down with wet glue for ease. Easy to just slip them behind the photos. And here I decided to switch out the order, so I'm going to put this piece down but then have that file folder over the top, just to give me a little bit more room to add my journaling, because I want to add that flower as well, so that's already taken up quite a bit of space. So just popping that underneath there, and then that flower on top. So I'll put my date on the left hand side there, and that reminds me to say I took photos and then realised that I haven't actually added anything to that craft tab at the top of the photo. So I do come in with some little block stickers that I've got from Adorn It from years and years ago, and just write out Chester to put on top of that craft tab, because that's where we were. So just sticking this ampersand down, and I'm sticking the little label above that, and of course this lovely little pink ampersand on the circle. And then here's where I add that title. And because I've got the text print on the backing paper, it makes it really easy to get everything straight on this layout. So just checking that straight. I've got these 2 bits to glue down. And then I do want to add some twine to that sticker at the top, so I should do that in due course. And I had this little offcut from the mini scallop border, and I didn't want to waste that, so I'm just going to add that to the right hand side of that photo above the ampersand, and it just looks really nice tucked in there. So now coming in with the little puffy stickers from this collection, I'm going to add a star to that little circular tab, and a little puffy heart next to it, and one at the bottom in that cluster, just dotting them about, just like that. And here's where I add that string. So just a little piece of dark green wax twine, and it's just going to trail down the side of the layout there. So now for the journaling, which is going on that tab, file tab, as I mentioned. And then I just wanted to finish off this cluster at the bottom right, and I found a little word phrase that says, "This was pretty darn good," and I think that finishes that bit off really nicely. So once that's down, I'll bring in my roller date stamp to add the date to that file tab. I also find a little embroidered flower that I add to the bottom left hand corner of that photo of Ross next to that poppy head. I just thought it looked really cute, and it brings a different texture in. Just having a look to see what else there is, and I find this little butterfly bookmark, and I just think that'll look really nice at the top here, so I'm just adding that to that sticker. And here's that little flower, and that's the layout done. I hope I've provided some inspiration. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you again soon. Bye.